Hey, what's up, everybody? Kevin here for Turn 1 Soul Ring. Please remember to rate, review, and comment on our content wherever you listen to the show. It really helps us out. We appreciate each and every one of you. Now let's get to the show.
Turn 1 Soul Ring.
Nice.
It's working.
It's working.
Oh boy.
Yes, Star Wars kind of ruined that for us. Have you guys been watching the final season of Clone Wars on Disney Plus?
No, I haven't actually seen that series.
No, me neither. They're apparently they're releasing the. Well, I didn't want to start watching. They're releasing the episodes week to week. I didn't want to watch it until it was finished.
Oh, is this a new series? Like a brand new series?
No. It's the original series that started on Cartoon Network, and then they finished it, and then Netflix did one season. I think they did like season 6 or 7, and then Disney Plus is doing the final season, so they're continuing this story. But apparently, the final episode of that, the documentary they're doing about the making of the Mandalorian series, and the Rise of Skywalker are all going to be on Disney Plus. They're going to put them on Disney Plus on May the 4th, Star Wars Day. So,
Nice.
you know, there's been a lot of memes like that going around, which is kind of fun. But anyways, let's get to the show. This is Turn 1 Soul Ring. I'm Kevin.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Riley.
And today on the show, we're going to be going over some Ikoria and Commander 2020 cards that we're thinking of slotting into some of our decks. But before we get to that, Eric, how can listeners get in touch with us? Because they're going to want to.
If you are a listener, you can find us if you're listening to this, you are a listener. Find us on Instagram at Turn 1 Soul Ring the podcast. If you want to talk to us directly, you can send us a message at Turn 1 Soul Ring the podcast at gmail.com. And then on YouTube, check us out, Turn 1 Soul Ring the podcast, and make sure to type in the podcast.
Check it out. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about some of these cards. We aren't going to be going through these cards in any particular order, like best to worst or anything like that. So just sit back and enjoy. Riley, can we start with you?
Sure thing.
Okay.
Yeah. First card I have on my list is Riel the Everwise. So for 1 blue red, you get a legendary creature, Human Wizard. She's a 0/3, but she gets +1/+0 for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. And whenever you discard whenever you discard 1 or more cards for the first time each turn, draw that many cards. So I've already put together a Voltron Spellslinger deck based around Riel, and I'm super excited to actually put it together in person once these cards are released in paper.
Man, the pre-release prices on cards are so ridiculous. The Card Kingdom has this at $16.99. That's absurd.
Yeah.
That's never going to hold that price point.
Yeah, like unless it shows up in, other Eternal formats, right. I don't see it necessarily holding that price.
Yeah, no.
Anyways, yeah. Very cool card.
Super, super spicy, yeah. Works really well with cycling because, of course, cycling is discarding the card and drawing a card. So you're getting two for one, basically.
Yeah.
How about a wheel?
Oh,
yeah.
Boy.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
That value.
Yeah. Make Tolarian Winds good again.
Great again.
Have you guys heard about this companion mechanic?
I think I heard something about it. I don't know though. Is it real?
Oh my god. So Luris of the Dream Den is the first card on my list just because what it is doing to older formats is ridiculous. One of the days I was looking on MTG Goldfish top meta decks on Modern. 6 of the 8 decks were running Luris. On the top decks.
Wow.
These are the top decks people are playing. And what we're seeing Companion do with, some of these formats is now, if you have a deck, you really want to see if you can use a Companion, because now you have an 8-card starting hand instead of a 7-card starting hand.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And you always have access to that card.
You always have access to that card. So then if it's also part of your, win con or something like that, which it should be, it's just ridiculous. Yeah, Luris is one to watch out for. I'm wondering if he's this prominent, if we're going to see him maybe get banned. I think he'll still be in Standard, but he's just really running rampant in Modern right now. It's pretty ridiculous.
Well, and he's seeing tons of play in Vintage as well.
Yeah.
which is like I don't know. It seems like a bit of a challenge to me because of course traditionally in Vintage you don't usually see a banned card, like unless you're talking about a card with anti or something of that sort.
Right.
But it'll be interesting to see what they do with that because turn one, play a Black Lotus, play Lurrus, play Black Lotus again.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. And actually, like I just because I don't play as much Vintage, I don't look at it. But yeah, 4 of the top 8 decks are Lurrus decks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're all at 10% or more of the meta currently.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Might be a problem.
Kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. The next card, or the first card for me, is Verge Rangers, which is 2 and a white for a human scout with first strike. You may look at the top card of your library anytime as long as an opponent controls more lands than you. You may play lands from the top of your library. So I was thinking about putting this kind of into any white deck, any white commander deck, because, I really like this card as soon as it was spoiled. And it gives white decks some extra card advantage while keeping a white card that lets you play lands from the top of your library in the confines of the color pie. And you guys know what a stickler I am for the rules of the color pie.
Very much. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, it is a really it's an interesting twist on white cards. It's like it's almost there, but it's white, so they can't make it too good.
Sorry, white.
Yeah, make white great again.
Make white playable ones.
Yeah, for the first time ever, white is playable.
The next card on my list is Gem Razor.
No.
So we touched on this.
Cool.
I don't think we went over in great detail in the last episode.
No, we didn't.
For three and a green, you get a beast. It's a 4/4 with reach and trample. It says whenever this creature mutates, destroy a target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls, and it's got a mutate ability for 1 green. So I'm particularly excited for this in my mono green Canlander Stompy deck.
Cool.
Just it seems like a great way to get around some like an effect like Torpor Orb that shuts down other effects that you'd have like Reclamation Sage,
Right.
Because it's not an enter the battlefield ability; it's a triggered mutate ability. So, and plus it's a 4/4 reach trample for 4, so you can't really go wrong either way.
I agree. Yeah,
That's got a good rate.
That's a really good point. I keep meaning to look into Canlander, so Riley, you and me can get a game going, even if it's over video chat.
Yeah, man.
I'm thinking of going.
Guys wanna play some
I'm thinking of
Canlander,
going
eh?
like mono red burn, but
Yeah.
I've been looking into it here and there, but I really need to buckle down and spend some money. It's time.
It's
Good Cool. Guys, companion. It's broken. So next up, Gyruda, Doom of Depths.
yeah.
So it's a 6/6 for 6. When Gyruda, Doom of Depths enters the battlefield, each player puts the top 4 cards of the library in the graveyard and put a creature card with an even converted mana cost from among those cards onto the battlefield under your control. Definitely once Ikoria came out, I was playing a bunch of Ikoria open packs, doing some drafts, and then the first deck I built like in a couple of days, I did Gyruda, and I was doing like a blue-black or a green-black shell, which has evolved into Bant. But this card is ridiculous. Turn 4, you can play this out, and then hit a spark
Double.
Spark double.
Yeah, spark double. Thank
Yeah.
you. Copy Gyruda, goes again. You got like Kogla in the deck, so he comes out, fights something.
Yeah.
Yeah, the amount of ridiculous value you get is endless. And going Bant, because if you're against an aggro deck, there's life gain in white. So that's why that's in there as well. And so like the deck sustains well early game, and then you cast Gyruda. Yeah, it's really gross.
Yeah, and it's really nice that it's hybrid Dimir mana, so you don't have to run it in specifically a
Black.
Dimir deck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need the blue black. You can put it in like a black something or like blue something. So
So
This card is just really powerful.
Just so I'm 100% crystal clear on Companion, in Commander, this card would be in your Companion zone, but it's still part of the 99, or it's your 101st card.
Yeah, if you use it as a companion, it'll be the 101 card.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question is then if it has hybrid mana, like if I had I don't know, Mikaeus deck, right? Could I have this as my companion, the Gyruda?
No, you're still required
Okay.
to meet your identity.
Right. So it's not in the deck, but it still has to follow the commander's color identity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. No, good. I'm glad I asked.
Yeah, I saw a Gyruda deck in Legacy. LSV had a video, and he was playing a Yorion 80 card Legacy deck, which is really spicy. But he came up against a Gyruda deck that could easily, like, turn 1 or turn 2, get a Gyruda on the battlefield. It was filled with clones, and then it won with Thassa's Oracle.
God.
Oh, yeah.
It was just ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this card is just another one that I think is just like too powerful. And Companion is a very powerful mechanic because you're getting an extra card in your hand, and it's a for sure card.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better than drawing 8 cards at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Okay, my next card is Flawless Maneuver. It is from Commander 2020. It's one of it's the white card from the cycle of free spells. It's an instant. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost, and creatures you control gain indestructible. I'd probably put this in any deck with white in it again. It's free, right? But really, sometimes the only way for white decks, mono white decks especially, to come back from a board wipe is to give its creatures indestructible and avoid having to come back from the board wipe at all. So, yeah, I think this whole suite of cards is great, but this one really helps out mono white in that regard.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the commander free cycle, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, everything you said, I just second that motion.
Next up on my list, we've got Luminous Broodmoth. So for 2 white, you get an insect. It's a 3/4 flyer. It says whenever a creature you control without flying dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter on it. And I'm just super excited to play this in any kind of Aristocrats build or in my Teysa Karlov deck.
Yeah.
It just seems like a great way to get an extra death out of a creature that would otherwise just be going straight to the bin.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and like we mentioned in our set review, like this is easily breakable. It's funny, I'm looking at this on Card Kingdom, and the regular copy is more expensive than the extended art copy.
How?
Isn't that funny?
I mean, it hasn't even been released in paper yet, so like those prices don't even make any sense.
Ships in 2 weeks. No, it doesn't make any sense. But it's just and kind of in the same vein as Flawless Maneuver, right? Like it gives white that extra little push in the event of a board wipe to bring your stuff back.
Yeah, totally.
Who wouldn't want that?
Who wouldn't, my friends?
I don't know. I don't want to know him though, whoever it is.
So next up, I have the Fiend Artisan.
Fiend Boy.
Yeah. So it's 2 green or black. It's a creature nightmare. It's a 1/1. It gets 1/1 for each creature card in your graveyard. And then you may pay X and 1 Golgari and tap it to sacrifice another creature. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less. Put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Activate this ability only anytime you cast a sorcery. So this is like any of those tutor effects, but it's getting bigger as more creatures are in the graveyard, which is really sweet.
Yeah.
And then so I do have a like Golgari elf deck that like makes tokens, sacrifices stuff, and then it makes everyone else sacrifice stuff on the board. So this fits right into there because now we're tutoring out the pieces that we need, and he's getting bigger by the creatures going in the graveyard.
Yeah, this card just does everything you want it to do. Man, I gotta stop using Card Kingdom to look up these cards because these pre-release prices are driving me crazy. And I know that they're not gonna hold these prices, but it's just come on. What do I gotta do?
Yeah, and then also like this card's great in standard. Even with I was talking about the Gyruda deck, you throw this guy in there as well. You're milling stuff. Creatures are in the graveyard anyways. This guy's gonna be big at some point. Mm-hmm. If you have one on the battlefield, you can just tutor out another Spark Double. Okay.
Oy vey. Okay, my next card is Netherborn Altar. It's 1 and a black for an artifact. Put a soul counter on Netherborn Altar. Put your commander into your hand from the command zone. Then you lose 3 life for each soul counter on Netherborn Altar. So again, I might put this in any black deck because this is a lot like a repeatable command beacon that costs life instead of sacking a land, and it's just a redundancy if you're already running command beacon, which is a card that really needs to be reprinted, by the way, Wizards of the Coast.
Side note. Hello.
Side note. And also you can check me out on Instagram at Command Beacon. Anyways, it's also really what I really love about this card is that it's really flexible because in the early game you'll probably be more inclined to pay the life rather than the commander tax, and in the late game when you have more mana you might prefer to pay the commander tax. So it gives you that option. Like black doesn't have a really solid way of getting artifacts back from the graveyard. So if somebody takes it out in a mono black deck, you might not be able to get it back, but it is just this ability is just very rare in the format.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I mean, whenever we're able to cheat our costs like that, it's definitely a good card.
Yeah, well, that's why they call it commander tax, right? Nobody, no, or what is that? What is that phrase? Like, there's only 2 things. There's only 2 certainties in life: death and commander tax. Probably.
So sounds legit. Yeah.
Yeah. Passes.
And see, the pre-release price on this is $2.99, and that's gonna tank. So I feel good about that.
Well, isn't that part of the Commander set though? It's not in a pre-release kit.
Yeah, it's Commander 2020. So
okay.
It'll lose even more value because you can count on how many times it's printed.
Yes, sir. All right. Next on my list, Parcel Beast. 2 green, blue for a 2/4 elemental beast. It's got an ability for 1 to tap. Look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you don't, put it on if you don't put it onto the battlefield, put it into your hand. And it's also got mutate for green and a blue. I'm working on building a experiment Kraj deck, and I feel like this would be fun to slot into that as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nifty.
That's super fun. I can't wait till you're finished and we can play Paper Magic together.
I can't wait until I can play Paper Magic again.
That's just all our sentiments.
Yeah, for sure.
Alrighty, I got a few more cards here for standard stuff.
Cool.
Slither Wisp. So this guy is 1 blue and 2 black for a 3/2 with flash. Whenever you cast another spell that has flash, you draw a card and each opponent loses 1 life. So this guy's not legendary, so if you get more of them on the battlefield, we're really stacking up the damage whenever we cast a flash spell. Mm-hmm. And of course, because we're Dimir, we're saving our mana to counter stuff, and if we don't counter stuff, we're going to play a creature so that we have more board presence.
Right, and there's also that Dimir creature that makes it so your flash spells can't be countered. Right? Yep. In standard? Yeah, these two together. I thought when these were spoiled, and whenever they were both spoiled, I was thinking, ooh boy, standard. I'd build that deck in standard.
Yeah, your stuff's just not getting countered. So if you go against a counter matchup, you're pretty good. You're just gonna have to worry about those big creatures that get through your counter spells if you don't draw them.
Right, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, this is a fun card.
My next card is Arcane Signet. So, I mean, everybody knows what Arcane Signet is, but it did get a reprint, and it's like a reasonable price. And when the decks actually get released, it's going to be even more reasonable. So, I would just say put this in all commander decks that aren't green, and maybe those ones too. It's just one of the best 2-mana mana rocks. And in the vast majority of cases, you wouldn't be wrong to put it in any of your decks. And I don't know if Eric said this on the air, but when these were announced that they'd be in the decks, he said jokingly that now Commander decks are 98 card decks because Sol Ring and Arcane Signet just go in every deck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
I mean, that'd be a nice turn 1.
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
man.
Especially if you had like Riz the Redeemed, then you could cast Riz. Or Ovaya Pishiri. She's also 1 mana.
I mean, if you're really gung ho on casting Riz, you could just play a forest and cast Riz.
Whatever, Riley. You play a forest and then you use an Elvish Spirit Guide to exile it from your hand and get the 1 green mana. Come on.
Yeah.
There you go.
Brokos, Apex of Forever.
Cool.
2 black, green, blue. You get a Nightmare Beast Elemental. It's a 6/6 with trample. It says you may cast Brokos, Apex of Forever from your graveyard using its mutate ability. And it can mutate for 2 hybrid Dimir, green, green. I'm looking forward to trying to jam this in some sort of like standard Reanimator deck. I think I touched on this in a couple episodes ago, but I want to be able to. There's a Dimir card, Tomebound Lich, or Tombbound Lich. Either way,
Yeah.
one
Tombbound, I think.
1 blue black for a 1/3 with Death Touch and Lifelink, and when it enters the battlefield, and whenever you attack, or might have to contact a player when and deal damage to a player, you get to draw a card and discard a card. So I just want to be able to like play that, get Brokos into my graveyard, then later mutate onto the Tomebound Lich to give it Death Touch and Lifelink and Trample, and just go ham.
I like that nice little combo there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the... I think you do have to deal damage to the player, but again, they're not going to want to block your Tomebound Lich because it has Death Touch. They're going to lose their creature anyways.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah. Next up, I have Winota, Joiner of Forces. So it's 2 of anything, a red and a white. So we're in Boros. It's a 4/4 legendary creature, human warrior. So you can use this as a commander as well. Whenever a non-human creature you control attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a human creature card from among them onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. It gains indestructible until end of turn. Put the rest of the cards at the bottom of the library in random order. This ability is nuts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I didn't even like notice this card right away, I don't think. And then I was just playing handy dandy game on Arena, and then this dude whipped out this Boros deck, and then there was a bunch of creatures on the battlefield I couldn't do anything about, and I was like, oh my god. Literally exploded, and then there's like a bunch of creatures, they're indestructible attacking, and I'm like, yep, that's so this goes.
Yep, game.
Yeah. But this can be a really fun card to build around because you want to have, half your creatures non-human, half your creatures human to like make it the most effective. So fun to build around, but definitely very powerful and a fun card. So standard good, and also I wouldn't mind maybe doing a commander around this guy.
Well, if anybody can make Boros work, Eric, it's you.
I don't know about that.
Well, you do have that Fire Song and Sunspeaker deck, which has gotten us a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a jank, but it'll get you sometimes.
Yeah, it'll get it. Yeah, like Riley's Halara the Firefletcher deck. It'll get you.
It'll get you.
Okay, my next card is the Rogrin Triome. So it's the Jeskai Tricycle Land. This is more of a maybe for me, and I put it into my Narset deck because that's the only Jeskai deck I have. Only because that deck's a bit more competitive, so I don't have any tap lands in the deck currently, but it is really hard not to want to put these in decks because they're fetchable, and there's just so many times where you can afford to have a land come into play tapped, and if all else fails, you can cycle these. So they're just like, they're really solid cards.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Tricycle lands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I wonder how you're going to like it in your Narset deck.
I wonder. I don't know. That's what this episode is all about. Yeah, well, we should, if we do actually put any of these cards into decks, we should come back and report back on how they actually worked.
Yeah, for sure.
Once we can finally play again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Next up, I've got Aluna, Apex of Wishes. Another one of these legendary mutate creatures. This is the Teamer one. So for 2 and Teamer, so green, blue, red, you get a Beast Elemental Dinosaur. It's a flying trample 6/6, and it has whenever this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land permanent card. Put that card onto the battlefield or into your hand. And it can mutate for 3 hybrid Gruul and 2 blue. Again, I feel like this pairs really well with Brokos as well. I feel like I'd run them both in the same deck. If not, I would love to see Mutate come back in future iterations because I'd love to build a commander deck around Aluna. I think it's my favorite Mutate creature out of the bunch.
Wow, that's fighting words.
Yeah.
But yeah, casting spells for free is always good.
Yeah. I mean, I've cast this a few times in limited, and it's a bomb.
Yeah, pretty much all those like mythic mutates or bombs in limited.
Yeah.
And do they all have that hybrid mana on their mutate costs?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that just makes them that much easier to splash in limited, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Totally. All right, next up, the Ozolith. So this card's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
1 mana for an artifact. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on the Ozolith. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Ozolith onto target creature. This is obviously really good in the current set because of all of the keyword counters and such like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this also works with +1/+1 counters. And so the worst part about playing Animar is when he gets removed and you lose all the counters on him because all your work's gone away. Now, this gives a nice safety net for when that happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it is also a May for the second ability, so it's not like if I have a creature I have to. So I can wait till I cast Animar again, and then boom, all the counters are back on him, and we're just steamrolling.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, ideally.
Yeah.
Okay, my next 3 cards are all for the same deck. So it's more of the Tricycle lands. It's the Zagoth Triome, which is the Sultai one, the Katria Triome, which is the Teamer one, and the Indatha Triome, which is the Abzan one. And I was thinking about putting these all into my Sliver Overlord deck. This deck isn't competitive at all. It is 5 colors.
Oh yeah, not at all.
No, it's not competitive.
Well, I guess not. It's a very good deck, but it's not like CEDH level.
No. I'll probably try them in this deck, but as soon as because everything I outlined when I talked about the last land, and this deck does have all the ways to search for forest cards. That's why I chose the lands with the forest basic land type.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But probably what's going to happen is as soon as I draw one of them, when I need an untapped land, I'll take them all out of my decks because I'm a baby about stuff like that.
Yep.
But yeah, these are just such great cards, and don't discount the cycling. Cycling makes every card better.
Exactly. We've proven this scientifically.
That's what we have, yeah, just by repeating it several times.
We have the stats.
Yeah. we can rebuild it better than it was before. But we don't want to spend too much.
Okay. Nethroi, my boy. Nethroi, Apex of Death. 2 white, black, green.
Nethroi.
You get a Cat Nightmare Beast. It's a 5/5 Death Touch lifelink, and it says whenever this creature mutates, return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Mutate for 4 hybrid Selesnya, black. So I've already started brewing a deck around Nethroi. It's kind of like this creature-based deck that I'm gonna use the companion. I can't remember the companion's name, but it's a companion that requires you to have only a certain card type in your deck, and it reduces that card type by 1 mana.
Oh, that's the ooze, right?
Yeah.
The Golgari ooze.
Yeah. So I'm forcing myself into the creature restriction and trying to base it around self-mill, getting things into the bin, and using low power creatures with good enter the battlefield abilities, just so I can capitalize or maximize on how much Nethroy's impact will have on the game by bringing all those things back onto the battlefield when I eventually mutate them.
It sounds fun.
Yeah, man.
That mutate brings back a lot of value.
You know how many
yeah.
ornithopters I can get back?
Also, if you're doing like an aristocrats build, you can
Yeah.
probably get back like 7 or 8 creatures.
Oh yeah.
What if you used creatures with defender with zero power? You can get so many creatures back.
You could.
You could.
I mean, Abzan Defenders is something, I guess.
No, it's not. But you
Well,
can
is
get
it
a lot of
got-
creatures
You got
back.
like Wall of Omens and like Wall of Roots and
Isn't Abzan the original Big Butts one with the commander?
with
Doran.
Doran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, that's
so.
true. Actually, I didn't even think about that. I'm a newbie with Arcades.
Yeah, so I think with Doran, you should definitely throw that new mutate one in there.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that is pretty spicy. Wow, look at us just coming up with things off the cuff like this.
Hey.
We play Magic.
So my next card is super simple. It's Whirlwind of Thought. So 1 of anything in Jeskai for an enchantment. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, draw a card.
Yeah, boom, done.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun. Like I still have my Elsha deck together because I actually really like that deck, and so I definitely want to put a Whirlwind of Thought into the Elsha deck
Oh yeah.
because that's just really gonna power it up.
Yeah, that's a perfect fit.
And it
Yeah.
doesn't feel great to use a removal spell on that.
Oh yeah,
You know, like it's because
it's
it
not
just
affecting you in any way.
yeah, it just sits there and gets you value, and it's just like, I don't want you to be drawing cards, but I want to save this for a threat. So yeah, it's just I think in that regard, it is a really sweet card too.
Seems like a big
Yeah.
threat to me.
No, it is a threat. It's just not. It's just not a threat the way that.
Like a big dumb creature is.
Yeah, or something that's removing things on your end of the board, right? Because
Yeah.
they're drawing cards, and you know, it's not the same type of threat. Don't get me wrong, it is a threat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is my last card, guys. I'm nervous. I'm kidding.
Then we go into
can do
double
it.
jeopardy with me and Eric.
That's right. My last card here is Bonder's Enclave, which is a land. It taps through a colorless,
Nice.
and it has an activated ability where you can pay 3, tap it to draw a card. Activate this ability only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. I think you could put this into any deck where you have a lot of bigger creatures because 4 is not that big, but it's still pretty big. But where I was thinking about this card is slotting in at least 2 of them to start with into my mono green Stompy deck for Pioneer.
Oh.
Because with all the mana I end up having with the deck, I can often afford to sink it into something that draws me cards, especially if I haven't drawn the Great Henge, which is sort of the card draw engine for that deck.
Yeah, for sure.
I actually have
Yeah.
this on my list too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Hey.
I figure like for commander, even if your commander has at least like 4 power, you could probably slot this into that deck.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as it doesn't affect your mana base severely, you
Yeah.
totally can.
Yeah, if you got the utility slot, like it's a strong utility land for sure. Like just being
Yeah.
able to draw a card.
Definitely.
Yeah. Definitely. Should throw that in my Animar deck too.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. Oh, yeah, I should put this in Kozilek the Great Distortion. That's another
Oh,
place
easy.
for it.
Easy.
Easy.
Yeah.
Boom.
Easy,
Done.
bud.
Let's just do an episode on the decks we could put Bonder's Enclave into.
Oh god. Be so mad.
Easy, bud.
Well, next up on my list, reconnaissance mission. So for 2 blue, you get an enchantment. It says whenever
Oh,
a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. And it's got cycling for 2. So, like I said, scientifically proven, cycling makes everything better.
That's right. It's a better coastal piracy.
Yeah.
That's the proof.
And arguably better Bident of Thassa as well. Just like having that ability to cycle it away if you really don't need it, or if you're in a tight pinch and you really need to find something else. Reconnaissance mission. I love the flexibility on this card.
Yeah, yeah. Because
I
what
think
is
that's a hot take.
What is Bident of Thassa? Yeah, I mean it is kind of a hot take. I agree. Because what is Bident of Thassa's second ability? Is it 3 and a blue for target creature can't be blocked?
It's 1 and a blue, and you're thinking of Thassa herself, but it's 1 and a blue to tap and have target opponent's creatures attack this turn if able.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't specify who it attacks, so they could just swing at you if if they wanted to. But
Right.
like I mean that might be useful in some scenarios, but I think the cycling's stronger.
Well, the cycling certainly is. There's going to be more situations where it's impactful. Like maybe that's not the right way to put it. It's just there's going to be more situations where you can use it.
Yeah,
I think is what I mean to say.
I think it's less dead at many points in the game.
Yeah.
Possibly, because I think this is also a card, like if we're playing Commander, you really want to have this on the battlefield.
Oh, yeah.
It's drawing you cards.
Yeah, but if you have no creatures on the battlefield and you top deck this, like
It feels bad.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather top deck this than bind Thassa.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Next up, Shark Typhoon.
Hell yeah.
5 anything in blue. Cast non-creature spell. You get an XX blue shark with flying. X is the CMC. You can cycle it as well for 1 of anything in a blue and X, and you get a flying shark. So you can equal to X.
Yeah.
So you can cycle it away. But of course, again, talking Elsha, casting a bunch of spells.
Yeah, throw a Sharknado at them.
Yeah, I'm going to have Whirlwind of Thought out and Shark Typhoon. Cast a spell, draw a card, get a flying shark.
Pretty great.
Yeah, Riley, you got to go. My list is up.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Ram Through. So,
Okay.
Ram Through, 1 and a green for an instant. It's a common, which is important because that might come up in Pauper. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. If the creature you control has trample, excess damage is dealt to the creature's controller instead. So, I used to have this Multani Voltron deck that just cared about getting a crap ton of lands onto the battlefield and throwing a big Meltani at people. And I feel like this is a great way to get extra reach out of that deck. So it actually inspired me to want to rebuild that deck because I took it apart a while ago for an elf deck. But Ram Through looks like the perfect inclusion just to basically safely fling Multani at somebody without losing Multani and taking out one of their creatures. In addition to that, Pauper, you see Mono Green Stompy as a viable archetype in Pauper as well, and Ram Through could easily be and include in there just to, again, get that extra bit of reach. Similarly, I also have a Gruul Commander deck, Halar, the Firefletcher, already got a mention, and Halar has Trample as well. So this might even be something worth considering for Halar, just as a form of removal and pushing that extra bit of damage through.
The fact that it lets you deal the excess damage if the creature has trample really takes this card over the top.
Oh yeah, and it's
for sure.
It's a punch. It's not a fight, right? So it's hitting them without them hitting the creature back.
Yeah, there's no risk.
Yeah. Well, you can still get blown out by
There is zero risk.
Yeah, I'm excited for Ram Through.
Yeah, it's a really good card. Even just limited and stuff. It's good. Next up, I have Luminous Broodmoth.
Nice.
So, we talked about the card already. I'm looking to put it in Amanatu. Amanatu is a blink deck, so I'm not trying to get all the value off of the creatures dying, but if Luminous Broodmoth is out, it's a board-wide protection, and all the creatures in the deck have ETB effects, so when they're coming back in with that flying counter, I'm getting all those ETB effects again as well, so it is a nice, instead of just making creatures indestructible, I am now re-getting all those ETB effects.
Yeah, that's really spicy.
And you can exile them with Amanatu, and then the counters disappear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then it doesn't enter with that, so then...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're just
so
resetting
that's
them.
nice too. It's slower, but it's still just a ton of value.
Next up, I've got Suffocating Fumes. So for 2 and a black, you get an instant that says creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until end of turn, and it's got cycling for 2. And I included this for Pauper reasons. This card is perfect. It's a situational board wipe that only impacts your opponent's creatures and can be cycled away if it's not relevant at that point in the game. I think this is easily going to see Pauper play. And if I build like a mono black control or a Dimir control deck, I'm going to be looking to this to run and see how it plays.
Yeah, I have a mono black land destruction deck for Pauper, and I run a couple of copies of Nausea in the sideboard, which is -1/-1 to all creatures. But this is a more expensive mana cost, but let me just look up Nausea here. Is
Nausea a sorcery or an instant?
It is a sorcery. Yeah, I think I might swap this. And Nausea is 1 and a black.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is definitely for 1 more mana. And so it's 1 and a black to cast Nausea, but you could just cycle Suffocating Fumes for the same mana cost if you're not in a situation where it works for you. But yeah, the fact that it's a one-sided board clear, this is great against elves, and like I've run into that quite a bit.
Yeah, or goblins.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get all those little punies out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, get out of here.
Hey, pre-release price, 25 cents.
There you go. Picking them now.
Next up, I threw a Luca Coppercoat Outcast into here.
All
5 mana Planeswalker for 5 loyalty. Okay, rate.
Yep.
+1, exile the top 3 cards of your library. Creature cards exiled this way. You may cast this card from exile as long as you control a Luca Planeswalker. -2, exile target creature card you control, then reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card with higher CMC cost. Put the card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. -7, each creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. It'd be really cool to get to the -7 because you probably win the game there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, this card's going right into Animar. Mostly your creatures. The +1, we're going to be drawing more cards, playing more creatures. And I'm a big fan of the -2 ability because of the part accentuated. We can kind of selectively know what kind of creatures we'll maybe get because if we, exile a 6 CMC, there's very few cards that are higher than that we know are in the deck that we know we're going to get to. So,
yeah, and I've heard a couple of content creators talk about this card and that ability in particular, in terms of that it allows you to run mana dorks because you can assume that you're not going to hit them because their CMC is 1 or 2, right?
yeah, totally.
Which is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, if you run
Skips over all the garbage.
Yeah, if you run mana dork, like 1 converted mana cost mana dorks, and a handful of cards that make tokens, then you're only going to get higher than 1, right?
That is correct. Yeah, this is a solid Planeswalker.
Yeah, I think he's really good. What about the way the weapon's strapped on there?
Well, you can't actually see it if you look at the borderless alt art version, so I don't have a problem with that.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I'm gonna get that one.
Well, I mean, Kevin had Bonder's Enclave, so that was the end of my list.
Okay, Eric, it's up to you now.
The last one was just a mention. So, Colossification.
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we mentioned this, but if you Colossification a creature, then you can fling or thud it. That's a lot of damage.
No, you're right. You got him. Yeah, who cares if it taps the creature? You just won the game.
Yeah. It's 20 damage right there.
Oh, boy.
You know what you do? You get Storm Herald, and you use like a Rixmati Reveler or something like that to the turn before, like, rummage Colossification into your graveyard. Then you get a Storm Herald on the battlefield, get Colossification onto Storm Herald, and then you thud your Storm Herald into their face.
Sweet. I like it.
Yeah, there you go. So, like, turn 4 if you're lucky. Well, I guess you could probably run a Mana Dork. Yeah, there's definitely some brews you can make. So turn 3 or 4, you might be able to thud somebody to death in Standard.
Isn't Thud M19?
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we only have Fling right now in Standard?
We don't have anything in Standard that does that, actually.
We don't even have Fling? I feel like we have Fling.
Oh, it's Throne of Eldraine. There we go.
Fling is in Throne of Eldraine?
That's the one. So we can fling. We can't thud, but we can fling.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Well, we're going to bring this episode to a close. Let us know if you're planning on putting any of the new cards from Ikoria or C20 into any of your decks, and if there's any cards that we missed. We'd also like to thank our editor Ainsley for the behind-the-scenes work that she does each and every week. If you want to find any of us on social media individually, you can find me at Command Beacon on Instagram. You can find Riley where?
You can find me on Instagram at Riley_Dayton or on Twitter at Riles Dayton.
That's his name. And before you hop to the next episode, please check out all the links in the show notes. We appreciate each and every one of you, and thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening. Get flinging, people.
Yeah, fling them good.
Fling on, folks. Also, wash your hands.
Yeah.
Turn one, Soul Ring.